Most men hear the word retention and instantly filter it through the wrong lens. They imagine it as celibacy, as if it's a monkish withdrawal from life, a timid refusal to engage with women, or a guilt-driven denial of desire. But this is the first and fatal misunderstanding. Celibacy is abstinence. It is an empty act, a hollow shutting off of the valve. Retention, on the other hand, is the sharpening of the blade. It is not the refusal of sex, it is the command of sex. Where celibacy is surrender to absence, retention is mastery of presence. A celibate man is defined by what he lacks. A man of retention is defined by what he controls. This distinction is critical, because in a culture that thrives on confusion, weakness masquerades as virtue. Celibacy has long been pushed as purity, as though denying one's primal drive makes one good. But goodness without power is fragility. Retention is not about running from lust. It is about standing in the fire of lust and bending it to your will. It is the art of holding the line. You do not deny the battlefield exists. You dominate it by conserving your soldiers, your ammunition, your energy. A general who fires all his bullets at the first sign of the enemy is not brave. He is reckless. And men today, in their constant cycles of indulgence and release, are that reckless general. They burn through their ammunition in the nightly battles of lust, leaving themselves unarmed when the war of legacy calls. Rollo Tomassi's red pill lens strips away the fantasy that most men are enslaved by. The lie is that indulgence makes you free, that spilling yourself whenever you feel the urge is healthy. This is the language of a system that wants men docile, drained, and distracted. A man who cannot go a week without spilling his essence is not free. He is chained by his biology, pulled by his lower instincts like a dog by its collar. Tomassi reminds us that desire is not evil, women are not evil, and sex is not evil. What ruins men is their lack of strategy. Without the discipline of retention, their biology controls their destiny. With retention, their biology serves it. Picture this clearly. One man wakes up every day, his mind fogged from the previous night's indulgence, his drive dulled, his focus shattered. He spends his life reacting, chasing women, chasing pleasure, chasing distractions. He lives in a cycle of leakage, not just of his seed, but of his time, his money, his opportunities. Now contrast him with another man. He does not deny his desires, but he disciplines them. He wakes with clarity, his body charged, his aura sharp. He does not chase women. Women chase the mystery of his restraint. He does not pour his energy into empty encounters. He stores it, refines it, and deploys it like a king spending gold to expand his empire. Both men feel the same urges, but one is a slave and the other is a strategist. This is the foundation. Retention is not celibacy, it's strategy. And until a man understands that, he will continue to confuse weakness for strength, repression for control, and denial for discipline. Retention is not about saying no to life. It's about saying not yet. Because timing is everything in war, in seduction, and in legacy. Once you strip away the illusions, you see retention for what it truly is. Not denial, but deployment. Not repression, but redirection. Retention is the act of taking the most volatile energy a man possesses, sexual energy, and turning it into a disciplined arsenal. Where the average man leaks his vitality in a constant stream of release, the retained man stores it, hardens it, and channels it into conquest. This is the key distinction. Lust is not the enemy. Lack of control is. Every empire has fallen not because men felt desire, but because they allowed desire to rule them. The Roman emperors weren't destroyed by the existence of women, but by their addiction to women. Great athletes didn't squander their careers because they had passion, but because they let passion bleed into indulgence. Retention, then, is not about castrating the self. It is about crowning the self, placing desire under command, like a king disciplining his army. Think of your sexual energy as currency. Most men spend it like peasants at a tavern, buying cheap thrills, throwing coins at fleeting pleasures. They walk home broken, their pockets turned inside out. But the retained man invests. He compounds his energy, reinvests it into focus, creativity, strength, discipline. Over time, what was once a single coin becomes a treasury. He does not walk into the tavern begging for validation. He builds the tavern, owns the land it stands on, and makes others pay him for the privilege of entering. That is the difference between indulgence and strategy. Rollo Tomassi's red pill truth reminds us that in today's sexual marketplace, temptation is engineered. We live in an age where vice is weaponized. Endless images, endless access, endless novelty. Most men drown in this flood, unaware that their weakness is being harvested for profit. They think they are exercising freedom, when in reality they are slaves to a dopamine drip. In a world like this, retention becomes the ultimate rebellion. It is not simply personal discipline, it is social warfare. The man who can say no when everything screams yes becomes untouchable. And here is the psychological edge. People can feel when a man is not enslaved by lust. His eyes don't dart, his frame doesn't crumble. He carries himself with an aura that unsettles both men and women, because his energy is concentrated. Women sense it as magnetism, men sense it as intimidation. It's not mystical, it's biological. A retained man vibrates differently because he is not bleeding out his essence. He is storing it, and that stored charge leaks into his presence like static before a storm. This is where retention turns into psychological warfare. In the sexual game, most men are predictable. They chase, they beg, they release. But when a woman meets a man who does not immediately seek release, who can delay, who can hold, the script flips. Control becomes attraction, restraint becomes seduction. It is not weakness that draws her in, but the fact that she cannot so easily conquer him. She feels the weight of his strategy, and strategy always outranks impulse. Imagine a general on the battlefield. He does not send his entire army charging into the first clash. He studies, he waits, he maneuvers. He holds his strongest soldiers back until the decisive moment, when their impact will shift the war. Retention is that general's discipline. The man who retains does not rush to satisfy his hunger. He waits until satisfaction aligns with mission, until desire strengthens his empire rather than weakens it. That is strategy. That is power. You're not lazy, you're hijacked. Every scroll designed to keep you docile, addicted, and distracted. Dopamine warfare, reclaiming the mind. This isn't just about quitting porn or deleting apps. This is about taking back command of your nervous system, your focus, your fire. The final step is understanding that retention is not about deprivation, it is about destiny. Too many men think discipline is about denying themselves, when in reality, discipline is about directing themselves. Retention is not a lifetime of hiding from women or avoiding sex. It is about wielding control until sex serves the mission, not sabotages it. A man does not practice retention because he fears desire. He practices it because he refuses to waste desire. History is littered with the graves of men undone by indulgence. Emperors who lost empires for concubines. Athletes who lost legacies for scandal. Kings who traded crowns for lust. The pattern is ancient. Where desire is uncontrolled, downfall is inevitable. But where desire is mastered, men rise. The difference between a tragedy and a triumph often comes down to whether a man spilled his essence recklessly or channeled it ruthlessly. Retention, then, is not the act of saying no to sex. It is the act of saying yes to legacy. It is understanding that every ounce of energy you waste in the pursuit of fleeting pleasure is an ounce stolen from your empire, your health, your wealth, your power, your vision. When you learn to hold, you learn to build. When you learn to delay, you learn to conquer. This is why retention is not limitation. It is liberation. It frees you from the compulsions that enslave other men. Think of it this way. The man who indulges every time is predictable. He is easy to manipulate. He will trade his focus for a glance, his money for a night, his ambition for a touch. But the man who retains becomes a fortress. You cannot bribe him with lust. You cannot bait him with desire. His will is forged in restraint, and that restraint becomes his armor. He does not renounce women. He simply refuses to be ruled by them. And paradoxically, that is what makes women respect him more. This is where legacy comes into focus. The man who controls his retention does not live for the weekend hookup, the one-night stand, or the quick thrill. He lives for the long arc, the empire he is building, the dynasty he is carving into time. He knows that his seed is not just biological, it is symbolic. It is the essence of his creativity, his drive, his will to expand. To spill it recklessly is to cheapen it. To master it is to magnify it. The danger lies in the confusion. Men who confuse retention with celibacy will fall into weakness. Celibacy is the denial of desire. Retention is the discipline of desire. Celibacy hides from fire. Retention walks into fire and commands it. Celibacy is fear. Retention is mastery. One leaves you empty, the other leaves you overflowing. And this is the final truth. Retention is not the absence of sex. It is the presence of strategy. It is the conscious choice to conserve, to direct, and to deploy your energy only when it multiplies your mission. A man who practices retention is not simply living. He is arming. He becomes sharper, clearer, harder to move. He builds wealth while others chase women. He builds kingdoms while others chase lust. And when he does choose to release, it is not out of weakness, but out of command. Retention is not about running from life. It is about conquering it. The man who retains does not fear desire. He bends it. He does not deny pleasure. He disciplines it. And in that discipline, he discovers the rarest power of all, the power to leave a legacy that cannot be erased. If this message spoke to you, if you felt the weight of these words, then you already know you're not like other men. Most will scroll past. Most will stay trapped in cycles of indulgence, distraction, and weakness. But you're searching for something sharper, something that cuts through the noise and arms your mind for war. That's exactly why I created the Interceptor audiobooks. Not soft self-help, not recycled motivation, but weapons. Each audiobook is a manual of discipline, lust control, and psychological warfare. Lessons drawn from history's most dangerous minds, Nietzsche, Machiavelli, Marcus Aurelius, reforged in fire and delivered in a voice designed to hit your spirit. These audiobooks aren't entertainment. They are conditioning. You listen daily and your mind sharpens. You begin to see through illusions. You begin to command yourself the way leaders, generals, and conquerors commanded armies. If you're serious about rising above the weak, if you're done bleeding out your energy into pleasure and want to weaponize it for power, wealth, and legacy, then step into the Interceptor library. Click below, claim your audiobook, and start forging the mindset of a man who cannot be broken. Thus remember, we are Indecepta. Becoming Indeceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. Welcome to the Interceptor archive, where the undeceived rise. No ads, no distractions, just pure, uninterrupted power. As a crusader of the archive, you gain infinite access to every video, every truth, every strategy, without censorship, delay, or interruption. New drops daily, delivered to you before the world sees them. Raw, unfiltered, elite. Indeceptions.com